So when Spider-Man No Way Home closed, I had a full-on bone and felt the same way when finishing an old Stan Lee, Romita or Gil Kane issue, because unlike the previous films, it didn't leave you with a tidy feeling that everything will be okay, where Peter Parker's decision was totally worth it, even if it's retconned in the next one. And that's perfect, because Spider-Man isn't about certainty, it's about lost fucking prospects. It's about the journey of a kid who deals with self-fucking-doubt. But first, to talk about Spider-Man's self-doubt, it requires explaining the nature of Uncle Ben back in the good old days, which also gives me the opportunity to clarify my position with him. As much as I love the Raimi trilogy, I'm very critical of its messiah-like version of Uncle Ben, who's so inspirational that he literally coerces Tobey Maguire into living out his dreams as Spider-Man.
I can't live your dreams anymore.
Because the most important source of Peter Parker's self-doubt directly comes from him wanting to be a better person but not knowing what that means. Even though I'll always feel guilty for the death of Uncle Ben, maybe tonight in some small way, Spider-Man paid part of that never-ending debt. The key word here is maybe, because both the beauty and the tragedy of Stan's original 100-issue run was the prospect that we'll never know. Is Spider-Man a successful form of redemption or a shade of his old narcissism? Because Peter Parker before his powers started out kinda like an incel. He wanted Sally, attention he felt entitled to, and revenge on a world that bullied him, which consequently led to him letting a criminal escape cleanly. I can't stress this enough, it's important that Peter Parker wasn't getting his back on someone specific, because it's crucial that it never occurred to him to care. No one has ever been nice to Peter Parker, so why would he act nice when he's got power? Therefore, Ben's death traumatized him into changing his ways and add the missing bit of niceness in a cruel world. It's pretty much the opposite of the first Raimi film, where Ben's death restores Peter Parker's pre-existing good heart. Furthermore, another massive difference is how Peter Parker remembers Uncle Ben. It's not, he's my inspiration, my father.
I have a father. His name was Ben Parker.
But more like, he was so kind to me and yet I fucked him. This is why in Spidey's early career, the Human Torch served as his role model, why he used to always compare his decisions with those of the Fantastic Four, and why he would reference Spider-Man in third person. Peter is always in search for a reference point to measure his morality, because he lacks one. As a result, Ben's memory provides less of a goal but more of a haunting warning that Peter Parker should never follow his selfish ways and never forget the truth of his motives. And it's this friction between Peter's decision to do good and fear of still being bad that creates his uncertainty. Which is also why within the entirety of Stan's original 100-issue saga, Uncle Ben appears in a total of 10 issues, either as a form of recap, passing guilty reference, or in No More and If This Be My Destiny, remind Peter Parker to keep going when self-doubt has overpowered him. I know this sounds very abstract and probably just very pretentious, meaningless, and ultimately just semantics. Hosh-posh, if you will. But this difference is important. Spider-Man 2's version of issue 50 is also the polar opposite of the comic. The question the story posed wasn't,
am I not supposed to have what I want?
But was I always doing this selfishly for me? Can I be sure my only motive was the conquest of crime? Or was it the heady thrill of battle, the precious taste of triumph, the paranoid thirst for power which can never be quenched? It is very important that the idea of being Spider-Man to wear a mask and fight crime in your friendly neighborhood is born from Peter Parker's conscience, because it is only through crediting him that there's a duality of motives. He helps people, but he also feels powerful, gets attention, and gets thrills, therefore answering two very different needs in his brain hole. In contrast, if you fucking credit the source of being Spider-Man as Ben's idea,
all of those times I counted on you to have the courage to take those dreams out into the world.
It takes away the maybe, and makes Peter Parker's intention so cleanly valid and straightforward that there's no drama in his conscience, only with his dong. He's not gonna quit because JJ's argument that he is a narcissist came off more confident than his own ability to say, no, my heart isn't in the right place. Peter's self-image of Spider-Man isn't contested. There's two incredibly important moments in the third act of Stan's run that I love and very much galvanizes this. First, when Peter believed his powers were leaving him, so he might not ever need to be Spider-Man again, and he can't tell if he feels relief or deep disappointment. And the second, when Gwen leaves for London after her father died. Peter screams about how Spider-Man ruined his life. However, he also can't help admitting, but I'm trapped. I can no more stop being Spider-Man than I can stop breathing. I need the excitement, and the action, and the danger. And now I need it more than ever. It's the only thing that might stop me from going out of my mind. Spider-Man as an endeavor has self-destructive addictive qualities, one that can be legitimately associated with Peter's old pattern of behavior, the very ones that had gotten Uncle Ben killed in the very first place. Obviously, Spider-Man is not a narcissist. He's a hero in the most unflatteringly true and humble sense of the word. But it's important that he's never confident or know that himself. It's his perseverance in spite of such doubts that makes the story so darn heartbreakingly beautiful. There's a struggle from these pages that's often underrepresented and forgotten by the sands of time. I know some smartass is probably going to dismiss everything I've presented by saying, well, Uncle Ben just matters, period, blah, in order to get some brownie points, but that form of discursive premature ejaculation brings us all a step closer to human extinction and, even more importantly, cultural amnesia of Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, John Romita and Gil Kane's work. Because as much as comic book characters change over time, Superman went from being a social crusader to the champion of the fucking earth, Peter Parker is different. He's not a symbol first, he's defined by his complex personality and his ongoing biographical coming-of-age story. We watch a boy grow up. So as much as more people watch movies and obviously read less comics, it is ever more important to preserve and appreciate the memory and sophistication of these works. In summary, I'm not opposed to Uncle Ben saying, with great power comes great responsibility, although the purist in me slightly disagrees, because he literally never said in the entirety of Stan's run. It's so ubiquitous and dramatically powerful that it's not a bad idea, but more than anything else, it's very important to preserve the creation of Spider-Man as an expression of Peter Parker's conscience. This is where I deeply admire Amazing Spider-Man 1 and especially MCU Spider-Man, because by deprioritizing Uncle Ben, they had the dramatic space to really question the validity of Peter's own relationship with his persona, and especially with the MCU version, reinstall his self-doubt. Is he Spider-Man because of a superficial desire to be recognized? Does he see his responsibility with his own eyes or with someone else's? Does he accept the existence of Spider-Man as being more important than Peter Parker? These type of questions I hope one day would bring people to rethink Spider-Man's motives, so it includes the maybe again.
I'm so confused right now, baby. Didn't work for us, didn't work for us. And I guess it's over now, baby. Didn't work for us, didn't work for us.
So this was supposed to be part 3 of the retrospective, but the essay got so freaking long that I thought it made way more sense to talk about Peter Parker's self-doubt and Uncle Ben separately, so I can really focus on the theme of social stigmas and Peter Parker's anger in the proper part 3. Because after a few years of making these fucking videos, I know it's better to make multiple smaller, more focused essays than one big bloated one that doesn't flow. Anyways, I hope you all had a good Christmas. 2022 will be a year for my patrons, guys. I love you.
No, no. Come on, that is so annoying.